Good months and bad months. A lot of home service business owners doing 7 figures. I mean, for the most part, if you've reached this point, it's because you have a system to generate homeowner appointments, hopefully more than one as well, consistently. But there do come times where macro events or unfortunate timing just causes some sources to slow down, and that results in revenue swings. And so in this video, I'm gonna break down why some of your best lead sources could also be your biggest ceilings, as well as what to do about it when it comes to getting more consistency so that you have confidence to scale from marketing and consistent appointments. If you don't already know me, my name's Oscar. I'm the owner of a company called Roof Ignite. We help roofing companies with their marketing through meta ads and just generating appointments that are preset on their calendars, especially for operators at 7 to 8 figures. So 100 roofers helped already. Let's dive straight in. And for return viewers, thanks again for tuning in. If you're going to take a look at the most common lead sources, you have referrals, door knocking, mailers, you got maybe Facebook, Google ads, lead aggregators. These are where most companies get their leads, and any one of these can take your company to 7 figures, multiple 7 figures and beyond. It's just when it comes down to what most companies rely upon, in most markets in America, it's referrals with a mix of door knocking and or some organic and some form of advertisement. So that's good enough to get them to that area, but it's also one of the most difficult to scale, especially if you want to double your lead flow next month. You can't just tell your referrals, hey, double. You can increase them by telling your sales reps, hey, like let's double our efforts. Let's ask for referrals at the end of every meeting, but not. So it goes from like referrals are our best leads to we'll just get more of them, and we want to turn up a system like Facebook or having a call center call leads and sending out more mails where we know like for every X amount of spend or knocks or mails, we get we get Y amount of appointments back. We get Y amount of appointments back. The issue here is that it's hard to forecast scaling plans on one system on its own unless it's something that you are confident you can scale with that number example I gave of like X amount of people will turn into Y amount of appointments, Z will show up and you'll close those people. And so let's say one scales down. You have a perfect example of insurance all the time when I talk to my clients. About 20% of my clients are insurance mainly. And so in these markets of like the Midwest where it's like heavily insurance or storm markets, big issue comes up when there's a dry spot. And it exposes the fact that even though they're doing like 7 to 9 million, they might not have the infrastructure to be able to generate the same revenue that supported their crews and their payroll as well as their overhead because they don't have the retail systems. They don't have the ability to hit those higher revenue numbers year over year where the majority comes from retail, even though insurance might be a major factor as well. And so the reason why I actually brought up all these examples is because most PE firms, especially if you take a look at how private equity would buy into like roofing companies, especially, you might have heard about this in your market, like private equity firms, they buy into different roofing companies or home service companies like HVAC, fencing, gutters, siding, paving, because they know that they have the skills and the systems to be able to scale any one of these. And so they take what's already working, they amplify it, but they're not stopping there. A PE firm might look at who's the best at setting up door knocking teams and like actually operationalizing that for like 7 to 8 figures. They might also hire the best marketing agency or bring it in-house. That's what we do for our clients. And they might try to scale that up to a 7 to 8 figure run rate with thousands or like 5 figures in monthly marketing spend. There's also big operations that use mailers, right? They might just do a lot of these simultaneously because they realize that their company and their revenue, it's tied to where they get their sources from. So they pick the right people to launch them. And then if one of them slows down, they can substitute it with another. For my own agency, I am not incentivized to tell you, but there are some months that are slower when we're helping our clients, especially the winter months. And overall, sometimes in like the holiday season or after holidays, like if there's a Facebook algorithm change, we're obviously helping our clients get adjusted and taking the proper measures to change things around. But something as simple as like an algorithm change or less storm in a specific market or ads are just more expensive. These things can result in your revenue contracting, which is a major risk, especially if you are running with high overhead. Assuming that you have the infrastructure to hit it, it actually reveals a bigger issue, which is that you might not. Okay, so again, back to the PE example. PE is a great example about like, they're not just looking for the best leads, which often are referrals because they're super high quality, high close rate, they're free. But they're looking for schedulable leads that sales teams can close, because really at the highest level in roofing companies, they're really just looking for more. They are a mix of lead aggregators and all of these, like organic, they have some sort of efforts in every one of these divisions because their revenue isn't solely reliant on one. And I keep nailing down that point. Could you take your main lead channel and add 30 to 50 leads next month just by deciding to? Because if you can't, that's the ceiling. And you've just located the fact that, number one, you might not have the right infrastructure to be able to scale your company as strong as you can. Or number two, you might just realize that it might be worth it. Take on another lead channel. Make your business more valuable. Even if you don't plan on selling it, it's less risky. What I see far too often is companies setting very optimistic revenue goals. If they're doing, for example, like $3 million a year, and they're saying like last year we did 3 million, this year we want to do 10 million. How are you going to bridge that gap? Do you have the system to be able to do that? Because if not, you're just banking on hope. And if you're wanting to hire sales reps especially, they want to see that you have different lead sources to be able to support them. So the perfect example of how you bridge this gap is this formula of revenue is equal to appointments multiplied by your close rate and average ticket. I give you a perfect example. One of my clients, I will not say the name, is doing $3 million a year. Roughly 70% of their leads come from referrals and door knocking, which with a $15,000 average ticket, they're doing about 200 jobs per year. And they close at 40%. These are naturally pretty high intent leads, which means about 500 appointments a year, which is 42 per month. And 29 of those come from unschedulable sources, which means that more than 50% of their revenue is reliant upon something that's not 100% consistent, which means next year, if referrals are dropping off, people are referring less, their revenue goes with it. It doesn't support the appointment overhead. But the solution's relatively simple, like we discussed. Unschedulable sources are like things that you can't forecast, so you add one additional system. You find one person or one team or hire a system or somebody to build something in-house for you that can predictably generate for a known cost and a qualified appointment cost with a sit down, how many appointments do you need to hit that goal? So you just bridge the gap, and I've done this in one of my other videos. But overall, relying upon one system to be your entire scaling source is unwise. Facebook or Google, these are the easiest online channels for you to jump into because a lot of roofers in your market or home service business owners have that, and it's working for them, which is why they're still running it. And so you're actually able to produce appointments for a couple $100s each, which with your math, your close rate, your CAC, your average ticket, and gross margin, it should still make sense. It's just a little bit more expensive, but it goes from a one-legged stool to a two-legged stool business, which means you have to close an additional 466 jobs within 365 days or in 12 months. And that assumes that you have to run that many appointments with a 40% close rate, which doesn't actually always hold with every single lead source. You might notice that has a little bit higher cost to close a customer or get in front of one for that matter, with a lower close rate, so your cost to acquire is higher, but it might just make sense because you're eliminating that risk factor. And so you could also increase your price, which is a big lever, or increase your price enough to cover the cost per additional cost you incur as a business owner for the appointment. It's either you that pays for it or the customer. Anyways, to finish off this example, they would need an additional 1,165 appointments per year, which over every single month is an additional 97, which is around 3 to 4 a day, which is entirely possible, which is around like $1,000 to $2,000 a day on either Facebook ads or Google ads. Perhaps you build out a call center where you're having a VA or an in-house team member, call up homeowners or commercial building owners and predictably get that. That's another option. These are just super useful. Even though your business is like making good money and your team is fed and your bills are more than paid, you have a great lifestyle. I've noticed time and time again, even in my own company, it's good to have multiple sources. And so we have referral partners, we have networks we're a part of, we run multiple kinds of ads across different channels, and we're definitely not relying on one. And that's gotten us to multiple seven figures as a marketing company. Big takeaway here is that revenue is not hope. It's more so math and then systems and execution. Finding these people, finding someone like myself. Look, I'm not here to sell you on Facebook ads. Someone that can help you control the growth that's in your hands, where you can turn up the dial, because paid acquisition or something alongside what you have that is schedulable or unschedulable lead sources will make your company more valuable. And so the next step is just having it. So that's all I got for today.